Welcome to Global Entrepreneurship Week 2024. I'm Jonathan Altmans, and this is the 17th year since we founded this great global campaign to empower more citizens around the world to consider the path of entrepreneurship. And whether you're new to this field or whether you're one of the experienced builders and backers in one of our communities across the globe, you are now part of a movement that believes that we can solve problems, a movement in 200 countries that this week will attract over 10 million people to over 40,000 events. It's a very important campaign because it focuses on what we can create and build and do at a time when there's so many challenges for our world. And we really hope that you will look at this as an opportunity to be part of creating something new, building something better, of figuring out a new way of doing things with your fellow citizens. We believe that entrepreneurship is for everyone. In fact, that's our tagline and theme this year. It builds on the notion that we believe that entrepreneurship can happen anywhere, which is where we began this campaign, with trying to convince the world that Silicon Valley didn't have a monopoly on this. It could happen in any community, and it could happen to anyone. This week, you'll see a lot happening. I, for one, have the great privilege of speaking at the COP29 conference around the role that founders and startups have in actually coming up with solutions that can be implemented towards some of our climate goals, whether they're green tech or clean tech advocates, or whether they're simply looking at new solutions that will help execute what our government leaders feel is important to save our planet. We will also, in the other part of the world, it'll happen in Baku in Azerbaijan, but in another part of the world, in South America, in Rio, we'll be releasing our new G20 entrepreneurship report that will take a look at what are the latest trends and what are the latest developments happening in the major economies around the world within the global entrepreneurial ecosystem. I will also personally be in South Africa, where we'll open our latest Gen Campus, the 22 on Sloan Hub in Cape Town, an opportunity for us to show globally what can happen in a community that rallies around effective tactical strategies to enable more of its entrepreneurs to be able to succeed in their journey towards self-resilience and finding opportunities and turning them into reality. We'll have various members of our team in other parts of the world. In Europe, I know we have 3 members participating with governments. There's also going to be the Web Summit happening in Portugal. And perhaps most importantly, I'm very excited to say entrepreneurship will be celebrated in small left-behind communities across the United States. We're always so proud of the great campaigns that happen in Kansas City, the home of the Kauffman Foundation, which of course is the leader behind this movement, was the ones that developed the idea and has supported it from its outset. And we've been joined along the way by many companies, people like FedEx, who recognize the importance of empowering several communities and demographic groups that have been left out of this equation in the past. So I hope you'll participate wherever you are in the world, and that you're enjoying this week, and that you'll take a look at what's happening, whether on the research side or whether finding out what's happening in a community different to your own. But I also hope if you get excited about this world and you're keen to think, how do I take a next step? We are very pleased to announce that for the first time in many years, since it was actually initiated, the Global Entrepreneurship Congress will be returning to the United States. It'll be held in Indianapolis in Indiana, the first week of June of 2025. If you're planning a trip to the United States in 2025, please plan it around that time. Come and join us. Come and meet many of the leaders of the ecosystems across the world, where we'll have thousands of representatives, both leaders, investors, as well as, of course, the founders and the entrepreneurs and small businesses that are being enabled by this great movement. We'll all gather in Indianapolis for a week, and it's a great chance for you to make new friends, to create opportunities, and to walk away empowered with the understanding that actually this is a genuinely global movement in every nation, despite the fact that on the front pages of our newspapers, we see evidence of divisions among our nations and certainly among our geopolitical leaders. So if you're looking for a positive outlook for the future and you're thinking that you'd like to do a face-to-face connection, I hope that during Global Entrepreneurship Week, you will think about whether you can find a way to make it to the United States. You can go to gec.co to register. But in the meantime, enjoy Global Entrepreneurship Week and for everything that your community has to offer. And I want to thank you for giving this your thought, your time, your energy, as we all work together to figure out better ways of doing things. And we embark upon what is a profound mission to find ways that we can improve not just our lives, but those of our fellow citizens around us. Happy Global Entrepreneurship Week.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our special Global Entrepreneurship Week 2024 panel session. Writers are entrepreneurs too. My name is Michelle Samuel, and I'm honored to be a moderator for this empowering event. Today's theme, or should I say this week's theme, entrepreneurship is for everyone, reminds us that creativity and innovation knows no boundaries. Writers are entrepreneurs too. And we are here to hear the inspiring stories from two accomplished women who have transformed their passion for writing into impactful careers. Let us start with a moment of gratitude and reflection. I invite you to bow your heads as I begin with an opening prayer. Heavenly Father, I want to thank you so much for the breath of life. Thank you for everything that you've done for us and given us. I ask that you be present in these proceedings, Lord. This I ask and I pray. Amen. What an inspiring start. Now, it is my pleasure to introduce our incredible panelists. First, we have Dr. Nadine Collins, a globally recognized speaker, coach, and author of 13 books, including The Pursuit of Purpose, with a PhD in education and a passion for empowering women. Dr. Nadine helps others break barriers, uncover their purpose, and build thriving lives through writing. Next, we're delighted to welcome Delia Louie, an award-winning marketing and communications professional with over 18 years of experience. Delia recently added author to her impressive resume with her children's book, Gianni's Mysterious Adventure, and the accompanying activity book, which has inspired young minds while showcasing her entrepreneurial flair. Please join me in giving them a very, very, very warm welcome. Hi, Dr. Nadine. Hi, Delia. How are you doing this afternoon?
Hi. We're doing great. Thanks for having us.
And thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me. And my name is Nadine and not Nadine.
Oh, Nadine. Okay.
Yes, thank you. Delia got it earlier, correct. On the spot.
Thank you so much for that correction. So I want to thank the two of you so much for accepting the invitation to join this discussion. Um, I want to start, before we begin the questions, I want to start by sort of giving a story as to where, the idea behind this all started. And as we know, as writers, we love stories. So last year for GEW, my intention was to host events that are directly in line with the programs that my company hosts. And one of these events is called the St. Lucia Queen's Commonwealth National Awards, where the students who participate in the annual Queen's Commonwealth essay competition are not only recognized, but are given a platform by which they can showcase their writing skills. And they also get an opportunity to record in studio their piece on camera, and they get to interact with each other, and they also get the opportunity to take part in writing workshops, as well as get the opportunity to read their piece at an award ceremony and get recognized. So this was something that I had been passionate about because I'm a writer at heart. I love writing. I've been writing from the time I learned how to write. And I really wanted to give that part of me a seat at the table, even though um, my daily work is, enthralled in business. I do believe that writing has a seat at the table as well. But then when I proposed this event, Writers Are Entrepreneurs Too, I was turned down and said that I was told that this is actually not fitting for Entrepreneurship Week because writing isn't a business, and there is no way that we can sell this idea or sell this event to persons who would be interested. And I said to myself, so every single author who's ever written a book and has ever had sales, what is this person called? When they earn income from the sales of this book, isn't that a business? And technically, a script has to be written before it can be turned into a screenplay or movie. Am I correct? So, and that is a business, and income is generated from that. So, what criteria does a person who writes need to have to be called an entrepreneur? And I said, okay, I'm going to challenge this. I'm going to challenge this. So it didn't happen last year, but I was adamant about it happening this year. And there you have it. This is the story about the idea for, bringing in writers or entrepreneurs too. So persons can disagree with me, but the writers that are alive, that are watching, that are listening are going to agree with me. Yeah. So this is where this all started. But let's dive right into the conversation, right? Um, I want to touch on a couple of things, definitely, so that we can get those naysayers to sort of listen up and really understand us, right? So I want to talk about building income streams. I want to talk about marketing and branding. I want to talk about challenges and lessons. And then, of course, we're going to sum it up with advice for aspiring writers. So that's the breakdown, the blueprint for today's event. So let's start out with the building of income streams. So this question is throws out to both of you. Either of you can answer. How did you make the sustainable income from book sales, or have you been able to do that?
Okay,
Okay.
I will start, Michelle. Um, First of all, I would say I'm a bit saddened that you were turned down um, for such an opportunity to display writers who are entrepreneurs, considering that we have a Nobel laureate in literature who is world renowned and celebrated overseas for his work, his body of work. Um, so I think there needs to be a bit of education not just for writers, but for the arts on a whole, and shifting that mentality to that artists or writers cannot be entrepreneurs too. Like you rightfully said, before a movie is written, there needs to be a script. Before a song is written, there needs to be lyrics put together. And looking on the global stage, we can see that there's a lot of money to be made from writing. So I think here in St. Lucia or the Caribbean on the whole, we need to start the education so we can change that mindset around artists and writers being entrepreneurs and being gainfully employed in their field. Going back to your question in terms of the income stream, before I thought of writing for money, it was writing for an opportunity for art, to be expressive in art. The thought of money came after. But when I figured, okay, how do I make money from this? What I realized was that I needed to conduct a survey. Are people willing to pay for my product? Are people willing to connect with my product? How much people are willing to pay? Where do they intend to purchase my product? So from a marketing standpoint, there needs to be a wealth of research done before you could even think of gaining an income from your books. So that was me where I started. And based on my survey results, I was able to put a price to my books, of course, taking into consideration things like production costs, my intellectual property or creativity, and all other overheads. And I was able to put a price to my books and shop it around the region to see where it will be best placed.
Okay, excellent. Thank you so much for sharing. Dr. Nadine, I know your
Yes,
story.
I mean, after Delia, I mean, listen, I'm really simple, right? I've been, as you mentioned earlier on about your story, I too have been writing since I was a young, very, very young, actually, really young. And the thing is, it's so strange because when I was in high school, I would write, I don't know if you guys remember the file sheets that we used to have. I used to write 30 something pages back and front of that, staple it together, and my friends would read my novels and pass it from one to the next. Even my
Wow.
cousin's dad used to read my books and give me feedback. So I tell people I wrote the real paperback books because that's real paperback. You cannot get more paperback than that, right? So writing has always been a thing for me because it has given me the opportunity from the time I was younger. At a point in my life when I had not really found my voice yet, it was my outlet. So I would use it to just share my thoughts, put my thoughts on paper, put my feelings on paper. And I am so honored and blessed that something that comes so natural to me, something that I love so much, I can now do it to inspire people. And not only that, but actually help women to write and publish their books as well. So it's literally living out a dream come true. It's living out an extension of myself. As it relates to income, as Delia said, initially, I mean, honestly speaking, writing my books and getting them out there, it was not about the money at first. Because it's like there's so much inside of me that I know that I needed to share, so much knowledge and so much experience that I knew could transform the lives of other people. And so I'm compelled to write because it's like if I don't write it, how are people going to get to know it? So I travel all around the world speaking, but there are places that my books can go that I may never reach, even though I've probably been to close to 100 countries already. But the thing is, my books can go to places I'm not physically. Also, the thoughts that I'm expressing in these books are more fully extensive, for example, in my book versus when I speak for 30 minutes, 40 minutes, for an hour. And so when I thought about writing, when I had this burden to really release those books, initially I knew it was God leading me, because my first two books were published in 2012, April 2012, and I wrote them for university students. Then I wrote, I believe, three of them in 2018, three of them are unpublished. And it was easy to write them because I had been speaking so much already, especially on my topic on prayer. And so when I put these books out there, the money was not top of mind, but passing on knowledge and helping people to receive transformation in their lives was on my mind at first. I've been blessed to be able to travel the world speaking and selling my books when I speak. So you ask about the marketing piece. I really have not done major marketing around my prayer books. I did around the Pursuit of Purpose, but because I speak so much on prayer, I have a captive audience every time I take a stage to speak on prayer. And that's really how I'm selling my books. A lot of people focus on Amazon. I've never been that type of person. Amazon has too many glitches, too many issues, uploading and stuff. I kind of get in them there now, but it's not a focus of mine, because as I would say to my clients as well, I tell them Amazon will not sell your book for you. You are the greatest marketer for your book. It's just a store that sells stuff. You need to market your book. And for me, being able to take the stage, it's my number one strategy to actually get book sales. I've sold thousands of copies of my books, and it's because I'm taking the stage so often. I'm speaking so often. Right now, I'm speaking to you guys from Stacia. I'm not speaking here this weekend. I'm speaking in St. Martin, but I took a flight over to Stacia today. So when I'm speaking this weekend, that's again how I'm able to, my books are marketed by my speaking without me having to even sell the book. It's because I'm speaking. When I'm done speaking, folks want more. They want to experience more of what they heard from the stage. And so the biggest marketing strategy for me is the opportunity that I've had to just travel to speak on my topic and being able to inspire people and stuff like that. So that's really in terms of the whole marketing strategy. We do once in a while advertise the press series on Facebook, but we've not done any major marketing. The Pursuit of Purpose, we actually did. We had an actual book launch and stuff like that. My press series, I've never done a book launch, and we don't do major marketing around it. I launched my first two books, and I launched A Pursuit of Purpose. But I must admit that, the blessing is in my travels. It's in my opportunity and blessing to be able to speak on stage or to have programs on television on Christian TV stations where people are seeing me so they can Google me and, find that kind of a thing. But it's been an honor. And I'm like Julia, really saddened to hear that sometimes people don't recognize that this is actually a stream of income if you want it. And from somebody like me, this is not just a stream of income. Writing is somewhat part of my life, it's just part of what I do. I speak and I write, and that's it.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Nadine. And I want to sort of circle back to what you mentioned. You mentioned that your speaking is the avenue through which you're able to then have your book sold. Now, remember the question was about sustainable income. Would you say that the sales of your books would sustain you? Would you say that?
That's a ticklish question because it's so wrapped up in my speaking. And I could talk about it as at this point as a supplementary income for sure. It's not bad really, because the major way that my life is being sustained is through speaking and selling my books and coaching. These are the three things that I do full time. Full-time speaking. When I go to speak, I sell my books, and also I coach. But I believe that a big part of it comes the sale of my books. Sometimes I even more than the speaking engagement themselves. So in that sense, possibly. And I believe if I had to do more marketing around these books, it would be even better. But possibly maybe 50% or more. Well, 50% would be maybe from book sales and stuff like that in terms of my business. And some of it is coaching and speaking, because obviously coaching is more high end in terms of what you charge. But the thing is, when you add up the book sales over time, it actually makes sense. right? And because I'm a speaker full time, for most folks, they may not see selling books as a viable form of income because they may do it on a side. But for somebody who's actually a full time speaker and author and coaching, and that's what I do, it's just majorly on that, it's probably better. And I must say, it is a viable way to make an income. But there are a few things, few issues. Not because you can write means you're an author. I hate to put that in the mix, but not because you can write that means you're an author, because it's not everyone who's able to translate their knowledge and experience into something that people can actually take away and use in their lives for transformation.
Right.
And what makes your book sell is not the fact that you have a book on Amazon because you put words together and you got to print it, or you get to put that together, not the animation, all that. What makes a book sell is the message of the book.
Right.
It's about how the book can transform lives. When people read those books, what do they get on the book? What do they get from it? And so that's what makes the books sell. So apart from marketing, because you could market anything, you can market foolishness. And if you have the money, you will sell foolishness until people actually open it and see, okay, there's nothing here. So great marketing works. But what is really important is, do I want to sell foolishness, or do I want to sell something that is really going to transform lives? I'm about the transforming lives. I want people to read my books and get something from it. So when I'm at an event and I sell books, if people buy the books, I would literally say to them, please do not put this on your shelf. Read it. Because it's painful for me to think that I would have put all this effort into ensuring that you have a product in your hand that could literally transform your life, and you get it and put it on a bookshelf. I want you to read the book. And so for me, I believe that writing or being an author is a viable form of income, especially in our day and age. But as authors, we have a responsibility to ensure we don't just put words on paper, but we put words on paper that is going to transform the lives of others.
Okay. Thank you so much for sharing that,
Right.
Dr. Nadine. So Delia, let's look at you, because you have just started. You're just basically getting your feet wet in the
Feet
game.
wet.
So how would you say that being an author, being a writer, will sort of add or supplement your income? Where do you see that fitting in?
Okay, so just to add to what Nadine was saying regarding speaking, I found that I made most of my sales doing the school tours rather than just having my book on Amazon or at a bookstore. Being able to make that connection with your key audience or your target audience is what really sells your book. Like you said, I'm just getting my feet wet. I'm only published this year. So it has not been a full-time income for me. It's been a supplementary income. To be honest, it's a steep hill to get a full-time income from writing in St. Lucia or in the Caribbean region. It's difficult. We don't come from a culture of people who like to read. So that in itself is already a challenge. So you need to, in addition to being an author, you need to have other, whether it be in the creative sphere or in another area, you always need to have currently, unfortunately, a foundation or backup plan.
Okay, and that is something that I know. So for persons, and I see movies about this all the time, where you see this guy or this young lady seated at a desk and trying to write, and the publisher is calling, the agent is calling, is it done yet? And there's just a few words on the screen, and you've already gotten an advance, and they need this book, they need something to produce, and you're just sitting there, and you just have this writer's block and nothing happens. It gives the impression that this is all these people do with their life, is just sit and write a book and wait for it to come out. And if it's a bestseller, then they make millions of dollars. I think these movies really sugarcoat things a lot. They don't really tell you the back end stuff that happens and the truth about what really happens. So I think
I
we
don't 100% agree.
I think what we need to do, because we're talking about such a frank topic and we want to break some myths, I think we need to approach this in a very realistic and honest and transparent way. Do you believe, and this is where I was coming with that, do you believe that these movies that are projecting authors as these people who just have to sit in a room until this epiphany comes, and then they just regurgitate great stuff onto paper and take to their agent, and it's wonderful, and they're doing book signing and book tours? Does it really work that way?
I think traditionally it worked that way. However, with the advent of so many people claiming to be authors, it has become more difficult. Where if you signed to a, first of all, it's difficult to even get signed to a publisher who's willing to front money on you in this day and age. Second of all, when you get signed to a publisher, there is a wait period. So you're not automatically jumping the line of all the other authors who have been there before you and getting that big book deal. It can take years before your book can get the attention it needs and be placed on a shelf. With traditional publishers, there are different avenues where they give you an advance, or they give you a deposit, or they don't give you anything at all until there are book sales. But what people don't understand with publishers like these, there is a high percentage of your book sales that they keep, and you only get a small amount of the commission. Notwithstanding, it's a dream of mine and many authors to be able to just lounge and write at our leisure and get our book published, and we get all the marketing and on all the distribution that is required to make millions. I mean, that's the dream of every writer. However, in nowadays it's not really feasible. In the Caribbean, I don't know us to have that culture. I know it happens in the bigger cities, but we're not lucky or fortunate to have this as yet. I'm not saying the opportunity is not there, but in being able to sit and write and get paid, no. I'm a self-published author, so I had to do everything from the writing to the marketing to the publishing, to working with the illustrators, working with the editors, going and do the book tours, arranging the book tours. So in everything, my agent, my publisher, my marketer, in the ideal world, there is somebody handling all of this. So you as the artist, all you have to do is just create your art. And the same goes for music. The ideal situation, a singer should just be able to either write or come and in the studio and sing. They should not have to concern themselves with booking or what they're going to wear, or who pays for this, or who's in charge of their distribution. Unfortunately for us, we have to concern ourselves with all of the above. So what your example you gave, it does exist. I know for sure it existed a lot in the past, not so much now, but this situation, it does exist. We may have to step out of the region to get that type of treatment. And again, we need the marketing and distribution to be able to make these millions from selling the books. Both Nadine and I can have bestsellers, but we may never know because we don't have that level of marketing and distribution that these major authors get to make them, be able to sell. All the PR that's been put behind it. The same thing applies when a movie is about to be released. there is this big publicity, and you see the actors doing all these interviews and publicity stunts. You know, they just have to focus on that. They're not concerned with setting up these interviews or what they're going to wear or who's going to do their makeup or hair. So I would love to experience this ideal example you just gave. I would love to experience it one day, but for now, I'm publisher, author, marketer, agent, hairstylist, makeup artist.
All the hats. And your response actually segues right into our next question about
I would
marketing.
love to add something to that.
Yes, please.
And that is a few things, right, Delia? One of them is I get to experience the luxury, Michelle, of just taking time to write. Literally. I just took 2 weeks off, went to a resort in a place called Collingwood in Ontario, Canada, just to write.
Wow.
2 years ago, I took 2 weeks
That's
as
the
well,
dream.
and I went to Paris just to write. The truth is, for me to be able to write, I do a lot of work at home, but one of the things I don't feel comfortable doing at home is writing. And so I take really long flights to be able to finish writing. When I finished writing The Pursuit of Purpose and I submitted it for editing, I was on a train from Germany to Paris because I went to Paris for 2 weeks to write and I wasn't completed, and I began to feel too comfortable in the suite where I was. So I decided I'm going to take a train ride to Germany and back so that I could actually finish. I get excited. My mind is always on fire when I'm in buzzing places like in hotels, resorts, on airports, in lounges, at buses, trains, anywhere that I'm just stimulated by just having people around, even though I zone in. And so I have the pleasure of doing that because like I said, I'm a full-time speaker, full-time author. So I get that opportunity. I create it for myself because I know how my mind works. So if I want to finish an article or a few articles, I might just take a flight from Atlanta to California so that by the time I do that 5 hours and 5 hours back, I'm done with the assignment, just so that I'm not on ground. And it works for me, and it's been working for me for so many years. So I get that pleasure. Now, Delia was mentioning about, what may actually exist maybe in other countries. For example, being on that list, but I could totally confirm that getting on a list for a traditional publisher, it's very hard. Your book will stay in that system unless you're already known, like totally known out there, and you have deep connections. And if anybody picks up that book, it's going to take a while for it to come out. Hence the reason why we have indie publishers. Most people do self-publishing, and I've done that, and it actually works because what I do is I've sold thousands of copies of my books as a self-publishing author. It's about, again, what I mentioned earlier on, the opportunity that I have to be on stages all over the world, to be on international Christian TV stations. So that makes it easier. But the thing is, like, for example, that book I was working on, it's actually a textbook. So I wrote, because somebody asked me, why don't I use a publisher? And I said, well, I didn't think about it because I already hired everybody to do the designs and everything. And so when she asked me that question, I said, okay, let me just look into it. So 2 Mondays ago, I looked into it and I submitted a proposal to a company, an academic company that will look at books in the particular religious field and so on. And they said, okay, 6 weeks. If you don't hear back from us, it means they didn't take it on, right? And if they respond to you, then I guess we have a deal going on. I'm very excited that we live in a world where persons do not have to go through traditional publishers, meaning you don't need to have to know who is who you know that's going to get your book published, kind of thing. But more persons can get their stories out. That's why I want anybody who's aspiring to be an author to just understand that even though we do have the privilege of being self-published authors, we also need to have the honor and the integrity of being authors who actually give something out. And I'm saying that because I remember years ago, one of my cousins told me, you know, what's your address in Atlanta? I need to send you a book. Send me the book, and it was a booklet. It was like a leaflet. And I was like, this is ridiculous. If you're going to put a book out there, put a book out there. If you're going to publish a leaflet, don't call it a book. Because to me, there's an integrity that comes with being an author. There's not a cap to it to say I'm an author if your book is not transforming lives, if what you're putting out there is really not a book. So I want our aspiring authors to know there is an integrity. For me, I take these things like serious. There's an integrity that comes with being able to know that you're influencing lives, you're influencing change, you're helping to transform the way people think and how they're going to live. And so if you're putting a book out there, let it be a book, okay? You're putting it out there, put in the hard work of making sure that you spend the extra time on writing and not going out there saying, you know, I have a book launch, I'm an author. And when people check themselves, it's literally a leaflet, okay? And so while there may be challenges with, you know, getting into the traditional, you know, publishers and so on, I would say it's not any better in the US versus it is in the Caribbean, because everything, again, is always really connected to who you know. Now, I think that that maybe in the Caribbean, we may think we're more disadvantaged only because we may find ourselves having a much smaller population to be able to, for example, support the book. And by the time you have 10 events, you might think, well, maybe mostly everybody have my book. And so what do I do now? So I can see that challenge in the Caribbean context. I can see it happening, but I mean, there's a wider Caribbean. It's not just, you know, St. Lucia. I have the honor of traveling the world over and over and over again and going to places. So I'm not just exposed to one population, but I'm exposed to like just diverse groups of people all over the place. Who would, you know, different parts of the world, all over Asia, Africa, the Caribbean, North Americas. So I have that privilege. I know most authors don't, but I would say if you're an author, an aspiring author in St. Lucia, or even in the Caribbean, you're listening in right now, do not allow even the fact that your exposure might be so small to prevent you from putting out something that you believe can change lives, because you have online, you have access to YouTube, you have access to Facebook and any platform, LinkedIn and so on, Instagram, to be able to now send your message into the world. And if what you're speaking about makes sense, it doesn't matter where folks are, they're going to ask for your book. And so we do have the opportunity to have a global platform, even though we're probably confined to a small island.
Nice. Thank you so much for sharing that, Nadine. And both of you mentioned marketing, both of you. Now, Delia, you're the marketing expert here. Yeah. So I'm going to start with you. How important, and I want you to dive right in, specifically talking about your book. How important is personal branding and digital marketing for writers today, especially?
Well, especially coming from an indie publisher, you need to do a lot of marketing and personal branding. You cannot say, oh, I'm shy. I don't want to go and speak to an audience of people. I don't want to go and speak at the book tours. We just don't have that luxury. For me, marketing was one of the, when I decided that I wanted to make money from this book, I had to go into marketing. I had to put the artist side, the artist cap on a side and put on the marketing cap. So you have to have these connections with whoever you think your target audience is. For me, it was school children. So I had to connect with the schools. I had to connect with the Ministry of Education. I had to connect with teachers. I had to connect with influencers that have a school-based audience or a youth audience. And I had to pull all these resources and use it to my advantage to reach these students. And it needed to be consistent. So for example, I have Facebook, I have Instagram, I have TikTok. I mentioned the use of an influencer. I mentioned the school tours. If you look behind me, you can see I have a banner. I have a bookmark that comes with the book. I had a trailer. I had a virtual launch. I didn't do an in-person launch because I figured a virtual launch would be, be able to reach far more people. I have branded shirts. So I did as much as I could have within my budget to make sure that I created enough awareness and visibility so that when parents are now shopping, their children would say, you know what, I prefer Gianni's Mysterious Adventure. Apart from this actual marketing, my book was written for grade 6 students or primary school students who are writing CPEA. I'm not sure if Nadine is familiar with CPEA, but with CPEA, the students have to write a book report. So they're required to have a small novel, it's called a novella. They require, or a chapter book, and they're required to do a book report on that. Michelle, you would be familiar with that. And so my novel was written specifically for that purpose. So the students would read the novel, and then the activity book would help them with writing their book reports. So it has a book report guide. So in a sense, the activity book is a form of marketing in itself because it supports the novel. So you have to be very creative, especially in this world now with social media and fast-paced consumer behavior and ever-changing consumer behaviors and patterns. You have to be very creative and you have to be very consistent, or else your product gets drowned in the noise. So that was the approach I took in terms of marketing.
And you mentioned something there that I wanted to put a pin in and say, hey guys, you heard what she said, virtual book launch. Because the traditional book launch where you physically have to go into a space, you stand on a line after the person has spoken to get the person to sign the book. Delia chose a different route. And again, she chose a route that best suited her. Delia, I'm not sure whether you want to
audience.
share the reason that you preferred doing the virtual as opposed to in person and large crowds. Would you like to share that?
Well, for me, the virtual launch, budget-wise, it was first cheaper. My audience is an audience of people who are online. So that's one of the key things. You have to know who you're targeting in terms of your audience. My audience are young children. They're on their phones, they're on social media. So I figured, a launch virtually will be more fitting. For somebody who's probably doing adult novels, and they like that, the adults prefer the traditional face-to-face launch, that would be more fitting for them. Also, I felt with a virtual launch, I have a little more control in terms of the production. So I pre-recorded my launch. I had my son sitting with me and interview me on the novel, and it was edited and we were able to put it out there. And that for me helped as well. While I do a lot of public speaking, I'm not a big fan of it. And so for me, people might say, oh, but you were able to speak in front of a camera. For me, I was able to do my virtual launch, edit it as I felt, as I saw fit, add in all my little B-roll and my extra footage, plug in my my book trailer, and make it a nice compact package, again, to suit my target audience, which were the youth and the children.
Okay, nice. Thank you so much. And Nadine, what about you?
Yes, congrats, Didier. That was amazing. I believe
you.
It was well executed. And that's the thing. One of the things you said then, I want to just put something with it, is most people do not realize that their book is not for everybody. When you're taking on the project of writing a book, you need to know who your book is for. So when I speak to clients, I always tell them, who is this book for? Because this book is not for everybody. And so that's why sometimes people get disappointed when they put a book out there and they're thinking nobody's supporting me, because it's not for them. But the persons who need your book, they're literally already sitting on their sofas right now thinking, man, I wish somebody would write about that thing. I really need information about that. They're already looking for what you have to offer. And so knowing who your target audience is critical. Now, I do tell clients about doing virtual book launches as well, so that they can reach a more global audience. I must say, I have never done a virtual book launch. I do have a virtual book launch guide for my clients. The reason why I've never done one is because I travel so much. I'm always on the road, so I'm out there everywhere. And I've only done 2 in-person book launches, and I thoroughly enjoy them because I love interacting with people. The second book launch I did was in September 2022 when I launched The Pursuit of Purpose. I really enjoyed it. I rented out a space in a hotel, went in there, made it look classy, and invited my friends and people that I know who lived in Atlanta and the surrounding areas to come. I had, ordered food from the restaurant. It was really nice. I thoroughly enjoyed it. And because I really love meeting people, I don't like, I'm online and so, but I love meeting people. But I know that there's so much value in both book launches. And I do encourage my clients to do both of them. I've flown to one of my clients' book launches in London, one of them in Texas, one in Fort Lauderdale. And I enjoyed it as well. I encourage them to do both of them, but I love the in-person stuff because you really get to meet with people. One of the tricks about doing in-person book launch is that you want to kind of pre-sign, do the autograph before the event, so that when you have the stack of books there, all you're doing is just writing people's names. That's it. Because if people have to sit for you to write a personal message, the line is never going to get short. Mm-hmm. So when I do speaking, like this event I have this weekend, I haven't done that yet, but I will need to go in and remove all the plastic over my books, and I will need to put a message in there for everybody, like a message, just a standard message, and then I'll put names. I forgot to take bookmarks. I also have bookmarks. When you're doing your book, of course, you want to do everything that you can to make it stand out. So for The Pursuit of Purpose, I have a bookmark. I also have a box that I got created for it, specifically the name, so people get a unique experience when they actually touch my book. Because it's like you have to open the box. Inside of it has a Bible text that I paraphrased. The name of the book is on the box. So it feels like a package all by itself. And I know that women appreciate it. Even the feel of my books, I'm concerned about. I don't want just any cover. I want it to have a particular feel, because when women touch it, they could feel comforted just by touching the book itself. And so marketing is big. I'm big on it, even though I don't do a lot of it. One of the other things I did for The Pursuit of Purpose is that, when you get these hardcover books, usually if it has a leaf over it, then the hard copy is usually plain. But I wanted my book to be different. So instead of it being plain, it actually has the entire cover as well. So if somebody has the leaf and the leaf comes out or it's torn, you still have your full cover there, very nice and soft and so on. And so I was kind of very intentional. That's the book that I put the most effort in, in marketing and so on, because I really wanted women's lives to be changed by it. So marketing for me is a big thing, but I do not really spend a lot of money on it, meaning on social media, doing paid advertisements and so on. But it's just really about when I go out to speak, how do I present myself? How do I present my message? And that's one of the greatest marketing tools, because as an author, you are the marketing for your product. It's almost like if I'm going to a hairdresser, your mess, I may not want you to touch mine, because you're not marketing what you're supposed to be marketing, right? It's like I need to see consistency. So when I show up, I need to be the product, because I am the product. I'm the producer of the product. My life is what produces the product. One of the compliments I received from a friend a few weeks ago, she said to me, I told my sister-in-law, Nadine is in her book. Her book is her. It's because when people are reading the book, they need to hear you speak. And people tell me that all the time. And I'm really actually hearing you in my ears speaking. And so for me, that's my marketing. When I stand up in front of a crowd, when I speak, the way I carry myself and everything that I do, I believe what I wrote. And so I am that marketing tool for my book. And I believe that there are a lot of ways to use. If you have the money, you want to do targeted ads and stuff like that, you can do that. But just making sure that you are truly living out what you're teaching people, or what is in that book, that you actually believe it. Because I think one of the greatest disconnects is when we write something that doesn't even totally resonate with ourselves, but because we have the knowledge about it. I think we want to write stuff that really is really close to you, things that are aligned with your thinking process, your philosophies, your ideologies, and stuff like that, so that you can really impact lives. For me, again, it will always go back to me about impacting people, always about transforming people. But marketing, I believe, is important. And I would love to hire a marketing firm to do stuff. I did have conversations with some in 2022, but I did not take it on. I didn't buy really what they were telling me. I didn't really believe what they were telling me. So I had like 2 meetings. One of my friends who's into marketing and advertising, she, recommended some folks to me, but I didn't truly believe that they were going to do what they told me. But I believe it's a good thing. I would love if I could take the pursuit of purpose, give that to a marketing company, and that one book just bring me a few $1 million, I'll be the happiest camper. Hands down. I did all the work. I did all
You and me
the
both.
out there. I mean, so maybe one of these days that's a thing. Let them just take the book and
Distribute and market.
just
Get
get
it in.
millions.
Get
Because
it into a film company's hands.
Something came to mind as you said
I
that.
literally gave one to Devin Franklin in June. Devin Franklin, because we were both speaking at the same event, and I gave him one. So hopefully, I don't know, somebody I can give the book. But I really honestly don't mind one of these days give it to a marketing company, because the work is so well done. It will be amazing to just get it like
Just
distributed on a wide scale. It blesses me with the millions that I can help other people as well. That would be that's just a great combo.
Something came to mind as you mentioned, marketing and a big firm and getting, the word out there. But there's something that came to mind as you were speaking. Have you heard about have you heard of the Kendrick brothers? Are you familiar with their movies, the movies that they've made?
I've watched all of them already.
So there's Fireproof, there's Overcomer, there's War Room. War Room is my favorite.
There's The Forge.
Yes, The Forge. I have not seen The Forge as yet. I really want to see it. I am thinking that if they could produce one of your books, Pursuit of Purpose, and turn that into a movie, what would that be like for you?
Scary.
Oh my God.
Scary.
Scary good or scary?
Scary because, oh my God, okay, there's one thing about the book, but everybody's going to see it in the movie. But that's a good idea. I'm happy you mentioned that. I should probably ship one of my books to them. I'll try and find out. But the thing is, these people, it's agents going through agents. And that's what I learned when I had the meeting with the 2 marketing companies. There's no way to really literally reach these people.
Them. Yeah.
You have to have an agent who knows another agent, or an agent who knows an agent who knows another agent, to try to get it across. But we have a big God. So I think that's a great idea. Gonna look into it.
Please do so, because it just came to my mind. Like, what if I actually saw, Kendrick brothers produce it with Dr. Nadine Collins? I would watch that movie.
They'll call it another name. It will be something around prayer, because prayer is my crazy thing. It will be around, and it's perfect because they like prayer. So that's actually amazing. That's such an excellent idea, Michelle. I'm going to look into it.
Please do, please do, please do. And I'm looking forward to seeing The Forge. I'm really, really, really looking forward to it.
You should see it. I cried. I cried.
I'm looking forward to it. Okay, so let's go into the next question, because of course, there's a lot of challenges that you did touch on, both of you. So I want you to sort of identify maybe 2 challenges to obstacles that you faced and those that you actually overcame. Yeah. If there are none, you can say that there are none whatsoever.
I think my main challenge initially was funding. But I overcame that. Luckily, I got a grant from the MSME grant facility. I approached them with my novel, and that too makes me dispel the notion that writers
Are
cannot be
not entrepreneurs?
entrepreneurs because I got my grant as a creative entrepreneur. And with that grant, I was able to print some copies of my book and as well support my marketing ventures. So that was the only challenge for me in terms of starting up. My other challenge on the creative aspect was actually finding a good printer and a good illustrator that was able to make what was in my mind come to life on paper. So it took me, must have been a month or two to settle with a good printer that would give me the quality that I wanted and a good illustrator. I went through probably about 20 illustrators before I settled on one that was able to captivate what was going in my crazy mind and put it on paper to make my ideas come to life. So these were my challenges. It's just something that you have to go through as an indie publisher. But once you go through it, I guess for the next book, I know who I'm working with already because I would have gone through that file and I would have already, sifted through, the nonsense and settled on what I wanted. So that was my challenges. Those are my challenges.
Okay.
Yes, for me, I mean, honestly, challenges are so far removed from my mind because I'm so driven. Wherever I was all these years ago, my mind is not even there. But initially, I can think, having meetings with companies like Westport Press and them who are willing to actually publish my book, and then having someone speaking in my ear saying, this deal is not good enough, a literal individual, it's not good enough, etc. And reaching the place of understanding that I don't really need a publisher to publish my book, and accepting that I can do it myself. Because as Delia mentioned way earlier in the conversation, a lot of people are caught up with wanting people to publish their books, not realizing it's not really a good deal for you. There's very little in the deal for you. And that's why I tell my clients, yes, you can put your book on Amazon, but the way to make profit in selling your book is by printing it yourself. The largest profit margin you will have is when you print your books yourself and sell them yourself versus having a company print them for you and give you the just a percentage of it per se. Unless you're selling millions of copies of a book, it's not really the most lucrative pathway to take. And so once I understood that I could get all the parts together, and it's become so easy for me now. That's why I help clients do it. Once I understood that it's okay, that I don't need it to have another publishing name. That's why I have my own publishing company. While I'm publishing, I'm like, it's okay because I don't need to go on anybody's list. I don't need you to do stuff and just put me in the mix of a particular framework that you use for everybody, something that's not individualized to my needs. And even though they tell you, your book is going to be on our list and whatever, who goes on that list? That's why I say again, you're the greatest marketer for your books. And so I think once I understood it was okay, the rest is history. Of course, who would not want to have more book sales? Or who would not want the books just selling without me having to take a stage? You know what I mean? But I don't let these things deter me because I have so much drive and I have so many books that I have to write. There's so many books inside of me right now. I'm working on like 3 of them at the same time. And I'm like, I just need the challenge I have right now. I need more time. I wish somebody who's always bored could sell me some of their time, because I want to do so much. I have so many books I want to write. I have outlines, and I have my full outlines of books already that I need to write. I believe I have 5 of them in the working, but I cannot work on all of them because they're major books. They're not little things, they're major stuff. And I have 3 of them that I'm kind of like working on outline, preface, and one of them I have like right now going through a process and stuff. So it's a lot of work to do, and I'm excited about it. But when I think about the challenges don't stop me. Actually, they're propelling me right now. Hey, girl, you know you got work to do. Time is short. You don't know when your day is going to come. I need to get these books out there. So my major challenge right now is I need more time to write.
Awesome. And that is something I think we all struggle with. And I dare say women, especially because of the many hats that we wear. There's so many things that we want to take care of, that we want to make sure that everything is just right, just perfect. And we are our biggest critics. And even though someone may say, oh, it's great, we still see something that may need some tweaking, that may need to shift a bit. That's who I am. And I'm speaking from the perspective of a mother. There must be a nurturing aspect in addition to the education aspect of anything that I write. So I must know that when I write something and there's someone reading it, it's doing something to you. It's helping you to heal in some way, or it's helping you to feel like you're not alone, or it's helping you to feel happy if you're feeling sad. It's helping you to laugh if you're not, in too much of a good mood. That there's something that's happening that's helping you to feel a little better. And that's typically what mothers do, try to make, their little one feel better. And time is something that we struggle a lot with. And I mean, I'm not saying that all women have this struggle. I'm just saying that for the most part, from persons that I know of, those female writers that I know of, they all face the same issue with time. Whether it be struggling with time with family, time for themselves, because self-care, my goodness, that's something that I think we sort of put to the back burner a lot. And even myself, I've had to come to the understanding that I need to take care of myself too. I'm busy taking care of everybody, all the entrepreneurs, my children. I'm busy taking care of the house because I'm a single parent. So who is taking care of me? My kids can't take care of me. I need to take care of myself. And of course, God is watching over me. God is providing and everything. Yes, but I need to do my part. I need to be able to say, you need to stop now. You need to slow down. You need to take some time. You need to de-stress. That's why I love the Sabbath. Absolutely love the Sabbath. My favorite day of the entire week. I love it. In addition to the Sabbath, Sundays I look forward to because I call it Family Fun Day Sunday. So after all chores are done, I say, hey, what would you like to do? Sometimes it's the beach. Sometimes, and this may sound crazy to you, but if you hear screaming happening at my house on a Sunday, there's nothing going on. Nothing bad is happening. It's literally me trying my best to chase the children around the house and them screaming while I try to run after them because I can't run. So this is how we have fun. This is how I de-stress. This is my self-care, spending time with my children and sometimes taking a book and reading it. I mean, I love Nancy Drew. That's just me from my childhood days. I love Nancy Drew. I have an entire collection of Nancy Drew on my shelf. I pick one and I read and I don't stop until I am done. That's my form of self-care as well. That's me. I love reading. I used to write before, but for some reason I stopped. I just stopped. But I used to write very, very often. The first thing I wanted to do when I get up in the morning was write. And I just wanted to just write what was in my heart, what was in my mind, what was in my soul. I needed to get it out. And I felt that it was a bit of a healing process for me because a lot of the times the stuff that I wrote, it was because I was feeling pain inside and I needed to get it out there. And writing really did help me to heal. So writing is another form of self-care because it helps me to heal. As to why I no longer am writing, I am not sure. I think I want to get back into it. Dr. Nadine, I think I contacted you at some point. I'm not sure if it was late last year or early in the year, saying that I wanted to, to start writing, and you encouraged me. You really should. I shared something, a snippet of something with you, and you told me, "Oh gosh, Michelle, you need to write. You need to write." And I just felt like I was not ready at the time. But I think I am transitioning to the point where it is time. It really, really, really is time, because I have um, I have gotten to the point in my business where I felt that I've done the majority of what I feel I can do for that startup community within my capacity. But now I need to shift gears a bit and start writing something, and not just writing, for whoever it is going to read it. I'm writing for me as well. So that's the point where I am at right now. So I'll definitely be communicating with you again after this event. So just before we move on to our last segment of questions, I would like you to share, each of you, just a bit about what it is that you're working on right now. I have a video from Delia that I will be showing, and I'll be asking Delia a question after I show that video. But Dr. Nadine, can you share with us any one of your books? Anyone, just pick one, and share with us what went into that book, and how did you prepare for it, and how did it make you feel?
Yeah, I just want to clear the air about something when it relates to time, because I don't want to mislead anybody. You know what you shared about the time, it's not the issue that I have with time, because I have no kids. I have almost zero responsibility. So my desire for time has very little to do with external pressures. My travel schedule is the only thing that keeps me busy. And I want more time because I want to write more books. But it's not because I have other responsibilities to balance, because literally my schedule is me. Wherever I go, I have my computer and I could work and write. That's why I tell you guys I travel to speak, and I can travel and I can sit anywhere and do this, and I'm fine. So that I want to clear the air about that, because I do not have what most women would struggle with as it relates to time factors. That's not my challenge at all. Books, one of them, and what it took from me, I would say about The Pursuit of Purpose. That one really went into my life story, right? It's a lot of my life just on paper, because the title is The Pursuit of Purpose. I think a woman's guide or something like that to activate her potential and uniquely impact the world. Using my own life story and background about the fact that individuals, we grew up in the Caribbean, and we learned that you need to go to school, get good grades, get a good job, and you get married, you have kids, you get good perks on your job and stuff, and that was defined as success. But as I went through life, I learned that that is not success, and that success is more aligned with your divine purpose. It's aligned with who you are and why you're here in the world and what you're meant to do. And so when I was working on that book, it was really to be able to help more women understand that you may have the good job, you may be making the money, you may have the house, the white picket fence, the children running around, all of these things, and yet feel so dissatisfied. It's because you're doing everything you were taught to do that creates success. And why are you still feeling unfulfilled? Because you're not aligned with who you're supposed to be, the real person. And so when I put myself in that book, it was using my own story about going to school and getting the good grades and having the jobs and doing all of these things, and understanding that success and who you're meant to be, it's really about your divine purpose and how they can capture that book. And I really praise God that I remember receiving a message. I believe I was somewhere in Europe at the time when I got a message from a lady living in California who's originally from Uganda. And her message to me on Facebook was, Dr. Nadine, why did you write that book? My initial reaction was, oh my goodness, do I need to take these books off? Because I'm thinking, what did I do wrong? But then the Holy Spirit inspired me to go back to her and ask a follow-up question. Why did you say that? That's when the door opened. She said, listen, I read this book. I took less than 2 weeks to read it. And she said, from the time I read it, she said, I have not slept for 5 days. She said, I'm troubled because as I'm reading the book, I'm seeing myself, I'm identifying with things. And do you know this woman, that's 2022. This woman read that book. We had that initial conversation. She came into my speaker program. A very shy lady. Now, not only is she a speaker and she's doing programs and so on, she's really shy. She also published her own book this year. In less than 2 years, the book totally transformed her life. And that's why I write. And so when I poured myself into the pursuit of purpose, it was that when women read the pursuit of purpose, they see themselves in their purpose. They see the struggles that they have to being accepted, the societal struggles of people making you feel like you need to fit into particular roles, that you need to do this and that to be a woman, and recognizing that I am a woman outside of all of that. And what I'm here to do is not simply to support the dreams of anybody else, but to be able to realize the dreams that God has in mind toward me, the thoughts he has for me, and what I need to fulfill as a woman of God. And so that's for me, one of the greatest experiences is to know that, because Mariam Williamson said, when we shine our own light, we give others permission to do the same. And that's what my book is. It's like that light that I put myself in it, and I'm shining my light in that book. When other women read that book, they also now, their lights are also turned on. That's the experience of that book. And it came from me being totally open and vulnerable about my life, and not hiding anything. And that's why earlier on, Delia mentioned something that brought this to mind. She said some people might be like, oh, I have the book, but I'm shy. I tell my clients, listen up. If you're shy, then being an author is not for you. Being a speaker is not for you. Because if you're going to write, you need to write. You need to be honest. You need to be authentic. You need to be vulnerable. We cannot hide. I remember one time going through the manuscript of one of my clients. And as I was reading through the manuscript, because I knew her story, I began to write part of the manuscript for her. And I said to her, if you're going to put the book out there, then just put it out there. You cannot put the book out there, but you're trying to hold things, because when people read the book, they're going to recognize the gaps. They're going to see something is missing. They're going to feel like you didn't give it your all. You need to give it your all. And I'm coaching somebody right now for the dissertation, and my words to him is the words I use to them. I told him, you need to make love to your dissertation. You need to put your all into it. And so when you do that, when people read your book, they're going to feel that same beautiful energy that you put in the book. And that's really what it is. It's you just putting your all. And I put my all into writing all of my books, but specifically I'm focusing on the pursuit of purpose. And it's really about, women being able to really get inspired to just make big moves and defy everything that you've been taught, and understand that even though society says you should go this way, it's okay to go another way, because your path is not the same path like everybody else. Do it. Go for it. That's what I want women to become fearless, to become bold, to free themselves from the roles and things, labels that people may have on us as women, and understand that you have the power to create your own path, because you have a unique call on your life. Just be you, and don't be afraid to be you.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Dr. Nadine. Thank you so much. And at this time, I hope that you're ready, Delia. I'm about to play your video, your trailer. And after you watch the trailer, I have a question for you. So okay. Let's get ready to watch this video.
What Johnny thought would have been a boring summer turned out to be an adventure he would never forget. when he and his friends get trapped in an app. With challenges at every corner, will Gianni and his friends make it out before time runs out? Or will they be trapped within the digital realm forever? Find out in Gianni's mysterious app venture novel, coming to a store near you.
There we have it.
Thank you.
Now, Delia, I want you to please, as a marketer, right, and as an author, how has your expertise in communications and what you're doing right now shaped your approach to your writing and promoting your work, especially looking at that video?
Okay. My background in marketing and communication shaped the marketing, which was the creation of the video. However, it was my creativity and my passion that came up with the idea for the video in the first place. I mean, you can give me anything and I will market it for you. But the ideas of the novel and the trailer, I think it's all the creative side of me. And of course, don't get me wrong, marketing has the creative side. Marketing and communication, it does have the creative side. But I wore two hats with this trailer, the marketer and the creator.
Delia, we need to have a chat. We need to talk marketing. I love that.
We need
to talk.
There was a reason why I had to play that. Like, people just have, I don't think enough people see that trailer. So that's why I wanted it to be seen. Not many people have seen it, and it needs to be seen out there. People need to see what you can do, Delia. People need to see what you can do.
I agree.
Yeah. So you had this on a hush a bit, on a down low a bit. It needs to be seen on a wider scale. It really does. Because this is something that you did for yourself, but this is also something that you can do for other people as well. So I am really looking forward to seeing what you and Dr. Collins can come up with in the near future. Looking at that video.
We will talk.
I'm definitely looking forward to seeing what can come out of that. So I want to sort of go into, the final aspect of our discussion when we're looking at advice, for aspiring writers. And I want to use this line as the catalyst for your response. Think of a child saying to a parent, I want to become a writer. I want to become an author. And the parent says, there's no money in writing. That's not a career. No, I cannot support that. What advice would you give using that as a scenario?
I think that would vary, because I was a little girl, I was around 8 or 10. I said, Mama, I want to be a lawyer when I grow up. My grandmother, oh, all lawyers are liars. That was her response. Kind of killed the dream a little bit. I'm going to go study. 10 years later, psychology. My dad is like, psychology is evil, and this is coming just now. And I've graduated from college like so long ago, right? So I did my undergrad, my master's, my PhD. I did my PhD 10 years and a half ago. And we're here. So the thing is, I think there comes a time when a young person can make that decision to just go ahead with their dreams. I'm not a lawyer now, but I get to teach school organization and law to masters and PhD students. Not only that, though, I just want to say that at almost 50, I still have a desire to study law. But the thing is, I have a greater passion now. The passion is dying away. The past few years, I still had it there. I got my LSAT book, whatever. But it's like, if I do it now, I just want to do it just because it was a dream. And not because maybe I want to practice, because I really have more of a desire to write, because I really want to impact more lives versus me doing something because I want to do it, right? But I'm thinking at a particular age, you have very little control over what you do because your parents are in charge. I would want to say to that little child, your parents might say that, but don't give up on your dream. Keep that dream alive. Maybe I would tell them, because until they are in a position to make a decision for themselves or to have an avenue for themselves, they're really under the parents, thing. It's easier to give advice to maybe an adult who has control over what happens to them versus a child who your parents are your guardians and they make decisions. But I could say, if I meet little children who say, I want to be a writer when I grow up, I'll say, great, go for it. Start writing your books right now. I was speaking to one of my friends one time, and I was trying to help her work on a book. And her daughters, twin daughters, will come in every time they were coming to disturb the two of us. And I said to them, I'm trying to help your mom write a book. How about you write a book? And I told them to sit there, and they had an idea. And I said, great. So let's work on writing your book, okay? And this is what you're going to do. So put them in a corner. They're working on their books. Do you know they published their book? Their mom never published a book, but they were able to publish that book. So that was my way of, doing it with them, in the sense, because I'm working with their mom, but we never wrote the book. There was never even an outline. We discussed the concept and all of that stuff. But now the daughters were able to publish their first book. And I think now they publish a second book. So because the mom was open to it, we were able to actually make it happen. But in general, if parents are not on board, you cannot push the kids to do things that they don't want to do, right? But we can always tell the kids, yes, keep writing. One day to get you somewhere, that kind of a thing.
I think
Okay.
you were maybe destined to work with those twins as opposed to the parent.
Well,
Okay.
she probably had the drive and the passion to convince them and motivate them, was what she did.
And
to
they were
keep
only
their passion
10.
alive.
I think they were only 9 or 10 at the time. So these are the youngest people that I worked with, to have their book, and I was really happy for them. And it's something to inspire Black girls. Their book was really about that. Be yourself. That was the title. Yeah. So that's
Nice.
good.
Awesome. So Delia, what about you? What advice would you give?
Yes. So for me, we all have a story of when we're younger. When I was younger, I told my grandmother and my mother I wanted to be a singer. And they said to me, Senusha doesn't have space for that. There is no money in that. And these times, they didn't lie. I mean, we didn't have a thriving arts or creative industry or thriving music industry. That did not stop me from joining my school's choir. That did not stop me from joining the National Youth Choir. I mean, I'm not a singer today. There's no saying I cannot be a singer later down the line. However, once you have the passion in you, it's not easy to get rid of. You will do it. It might not be now, but you will. Writing in a diary is a good start. Taking part in the school's competitions, making sure you craft your essays. These are the starts to the stepping stones for you becoming an author. Fortunately, in St. Lucia, I've not heard of any parent or any school discouraging somebody from writing. It's actually encouraged. I know when I visited the Vidbute Primary School, I was well received because they too were encouraging their children to write essays for Character Day and come dressed as the characters in their stories. So it's widely encouraged. I think what we have to do as creatives or people in education is educate more. What is the importance of writing? What's the importance? How can you make money, a supplementary income? Even if it's not your full-time income, how can you make a side hustle from it? I think once there is an education around writing and the arts, it's easier for people to have an appreciation for it, because I think that is where the gap is. There is no appreciation for it. People always dream they want their child to grow up and be a doctor, a lawyer, an accountant. Luckily, the tides are changing. The generations coming up are different. They're more creative. They're exploring. They're seeing more on social media. So they're becoming more motivated and more inspired with what's going on around them. So the onus is on people like myself and Nadine to continue being that change, to continue educating, like she said, the parents, because they're the decision makers, and inspiring the younger ones to write. So if we keep doing what we're doing and they see and we're doing it successfully, then they too will have something to look up to and say, okay, she's from St. Lucia. She's a writer. I could probably be a writer too. She's a woman. She's a writer. I can probably be a writer too. So we have to keep doing our job, not just as authors or creators, but educators and people who inspire and motivate. So that is my angle on how we can get the younger people coming up to stay on course with writing.
Okay, and again, I want to thank both of you for coming on this panel, for sharing your stories. I will give each of you a few minutes to share how persons can get in touch with you if they want to reach you. If there's any book that you're currently working on or book that's already out that you would like to promote, I'm going to give you the opportunity to do that now.
Okay, so if anybody is trying to reach me, Delia, you can go to our website. It's www.timamaiproductions.com. Timamai is a Creole word for little children. The name of the business is Timamai Publishing. And they can reach us there. They can get us on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook at Timamai Publishers. And yeah, Gianni's Mysterious App Venture is a book about 4 children who stumble upon a mobile app, and the app sucks them into a different universe. And in this app, they get to travel the Caribbean, and every island they go to, they learn something unique or cultural about that island. And they end up having so much fun that they get lost in the app. And the challenge now is for them to come out of the app. So they have to answer a lot of questions surrounding maths, language arts, social studies, science, for them to get out of the app. The novel comes with a free bookmark with the characters from the novel, and it's supplemented by an activity book called Join the App Venture. The activity book entails themes from Caribbean Social Studies and CPEA, and it basically gives students an opportunity to learn in a fun and exciting way. It doubles as a book report guide, so the students will read the novel for their book reports, and the activity book helps them to write their book report. So we're available in all Westex stores around the region, and we are in select bookstores like Nathaniel Bookstore. We are in Priority Bookstore in Viewfort. We're in the bookstore in Meekwood. So, yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing that.
Thank you so much, Michelle, for having me on this panel. It was, a very good discourse. It was needed. And I'm hoping that we can see, without GEW, I'm hoping we can see future similar activities.
Yes, definitely. Yes, definitely. I want you to take note of this particular event happening every year. It's called the St. Lucia Nobel Laureate Arts Festival. That is typically the time frame around January where it is celebrated, and we celebrate our Nobel laureates. And around that time, there's a slew of activities and events happening in the month of January to celebrate our Nobel laureates within that period. So, Delia, I'm hoping that we can connect to do something around that. Dr. Collins, if you're available around that time period for us to do something around that time period as well, that would be great. And we can maybe connect and discuss, for that. It's around the corner. So if in case you are available, Would love to have you on board to discuss. So I would like to say again, thank you, Delia. Thank you so much for joining
Thank
us.
you.
Have a good afternoon. We will see each other soon. And of course, I will be posting Delia's information in the description. So you can get in touch with Delia on the site and also where to get access to the books. Okay, so Dr. Collins, it is your turn. Tell the people about a book or anything that you would like them to know that you want to promote. Oh, and you're muted.
Yes, sorry about that. So, folks can reach me on social media. Nadine, someplace I think it's Nadine A. Joseph Collins, or last Facebook. But if you just put in my name, Nadine Collins or Dr. Nadine Collins, I am on Instagram as Dr. Nadine Collins, on YouTube as well, LinkedIn. You can also find me on Facebook, or you can also check my website, www.nadinecollins.com. And I will probably give Michelle a link to bless all of our listeners with the first chapter of The Pursuit of Purpose for free. You can have the first chapter of that book. You can dive into my world, but I would love to hear from you if you're wanting to, as a woman, you want to become a speaker, a full-time speaker, or just a speaker. You want to do it on the side, or you want to write and publish your book. Definitely, you can reach out to me at nadinecollins.com or info@nadinecollins.com. That's my email. But check me out on social media. I'd love to hear from you guys because I want to see more of us in the Caribbean, especially women in the Caribbean, get published.
And there you have it. Those are her parting words. Again, Dr. Nadine, thank you so much for agreeing to come on this panel. It was a pleasure having you. And we are going to connect after this event. Have a wonderful afternoon. So, guys, this is basically it. I want to thank all of you for joining us this afternoon. It has been an enriching discussion. I'm sure you would agree. For those of you who are aspiring writers, I'm hoping that the information that was shared by both Delia and Dr. Collins is going to encourage you. A huge thank you to them for sharing their wisdom, their experiences, and of course, their view into that topic that writers are not entrepreneurs. Yes, we are entrepreneurs too. Writing is both a craft and a business. To all of you who are watching, thank you for joining. Please share the link with others who you think is deserving of watching this. And as I stated, the contact information to get in touch with Delia and also with Dr. Collins and to take advantage of her offer, I'm going to ask that you please fill in the form. I'm going to leave the link to the form in the description. Everyone who fills out the form will be gifted with the very first chapter of Dr. Collins's book. So please ensure that you fill out this form to get access. Now, we also have a GEW participant survey that we'd like you to fill out just to get your feedback, what you think about this event. And also, before we go, I want to remind you about SLUDTERA's upcoming events. Stay connected with us. Follow us on Facebook, on Instagram, WhatsApp, LinkedIn, on X, and please subscribe to this YouTube channel if you have not already done so. Visit our website, sludtera.org, for more details on what we do. But thank you so much for joining us. You've been watching Writers Are Entrepreneurs Too. We're celebrating day 3 of Global Entrepreneurship Week. Thank you again for joining us and enjoy the rest of your day. Bye, everyone.